We're here again. We are here again. And we're definitely here. And we got uh going to have a great episode today. It's something I kind of went into something I've been working on. I've been in a very deep place of contemplation and where I'm at now to what I know and to what I see, into what I hear and what I recognize. And I'm really glad about learning more about the Gnostic Gospels because it kind of shifted me into some things of balance, but also maturity. It allowed me to go to places I struggled with, especially with knowing things a certain way and getting mad in a way, getting angry, especially with situations, the system mostly. When we realize, when you know what's been done and how you've been manipulated through mind control, programming, and the system. But I'm not in that space that I used to be because I also see the other side of where we lie within our hope and the power we do have. I'm getting a lot of information, a lot of downloads, and this will be it. I will share some stuff today, but won't be sharing a video, and this will not be a Gnostic gospel per se, but this is just getting to the real nitty gritty of to where we live. This is something, like I said on the last video, it's challenging. But the truth isn't always pretty. The truth isn't always pretty. And the truth doesn't give a darn of your allegiances, of your likes and dislikes. And if it makes you happy, it will. That's why, remember the movie, A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. So I'm going in today. Let me check something real quick because I didn't check it earlier before I started when I should have. Let me check. Okay, it's there. Okay. When we start looking at certain aspects of the reality and what we've been fed, and then you kind of go into history and do some homework. And this is what's really, when you see the programming, nobody does homework. Nobody goes and looks at things. And there's no excuse these days. Maybe your grandparents, your parents, and maybe even 30 years ago, there could be some excuses unless you want to know, right? Unless you really want to know. But this stuff's at the edge of your fingers, and there's things just not hidden anymore. What really, when I look at things like the education system in the 1907 school board meeting, that will pop up like Pop-Tarts if you go look for it. It's not hidden from you. It will tell you everything about that school board meeting, to what it was for, what it was designed to do. It's not held back. The philosophy in that tells you what you are, what the program is, and what the school direction. And of course, when you're dealing with JD, if you know what I mean, rocking the feller, ain't for you. Ain't you homeboy? Everything I've been learning and seeing about the system, it has no alliance and connection to one of us. It wants us to ride it, eat it, breathe it, drink it. But then while it's doing that, you're getting this other stuff. So this even goes into our religion, Western religion, which goes back to even farther because there's an adoption of these Abrahamic religions, right? There's an adoption for most Westerners of Christianity, Muslim, Judaism, mostly Christian for us that come west. There's just some stuff you see here. I even have another one I will be doing as I look at Genesis 1 and 2, and it's becoming more clear. This is like two different creations. And many of you have seen it. Many of you toiled with it. Many of you have seen it. And I've talked to a couple who have. And you will say, what the heck? What about this? Because there's some discrepancies if you really have some discernment on and ain't just a blap blap or a hylic, or even for that matter, psychic, on what that means in Gnosticism, not what it means today. They've changed the meaning of words. Like I've said, they've changed the meaning of symbols and stuff like that. And then when you do your homework, you'll realize that certain things you're doing to yourself, but you signed off on it because you're not getting the information. And this really goes in the hands of what they say. Without this knowledge, the people get destroyed. Anyways, what I'm going to talk about today is an Old Testament God named Yahweh. And I'm going to frame him with the Old Testament. We're going to get some Old Testament today. And I'm going to put it together piece by piece as a puzzle. Well, it's undeniable, except if you're just so darn indoctrinated, you can't see, and that don't surprise me. But for us to see it from another perspective and a deeper level, things will just make sense. But anyways, without further ado, let's just go get started. We're 7 minutes in, and I am just in the space of this. I just am. I'm just in the space of this. So when I see this, and might say, Danny, what you getting into today? I'm going to get into what this was, who this character Yahweh was, where did he stem from, how did he become? And the very first thing we see is, before I read, is to give you some history. So Moses is kicking it, and he goes into this place, Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai. How about Sinai? And the keyword sin. We've been indoctrinated to look at sin through the eyes of behavior, and we've been told we have this nature that is just rotten to the core. You're just sinners. You're no good. You enter out of the womb as a little infant. You just the sinful putz. So we've been conditioned to think that. But the word sin has nothing to do with behavior from its onset. It was the name of the Sumerian moon god way before there was this story in this canonized version of the Old Testament, the Septuagint. And that's a whole different thing when you start breaking down the Septuagint. I really have been studying and learning. That's what I've been doing. Any of you guys who send me messages, notice I'm not sending you much messages. We're not talking as much on my behalf. I'm really just getting into a lot of history, putting the puzzles together, because they're very much easy to be put together. They're right in front of us. What was the story of Moses? And this will lead us into it. He goes up to this mountain, right? This moon god, Sinai, Sin AI, the moon. Revelate on that. Sin AI. Sinai, we call it. But think about it. Sin AI. And then he discovers a burning bush. Burning, fire. An element, a creative element, so be it, if it's used in a creative form. Like anything without balance, it becomes imbalanced. Fire can give you warmth. Fire can cook your food. Fire can destroy people. Fire can destroy a society, a village, a house, a home, a temple, any place fire can destroy, or fire can be used to enhance humans, right? And the thing about this burning bush that catches him in the story is the fact that the burning bush really is connected to the aspect of it doesn't dissipate, it doesn't burn out. And I was looking at this many years ago, in the teens, 2018, 2017, 2019, right around there, and I was seeing this and this burning bush, and I thought about it, and I was in a class, and Seven had mentioned this. Seven Bomar had mentioned the secret energy, had mentioned the fact that the problem with this was it was a burning bush of fire. It lacked water, lacked a feminine aspect of peace, of care. Remember that. Keep that peace and care in the forefront of your frontal lobe, because this is going to connect to. So Exodus 3:5, the King James Version states, the Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. The verse is part of a song Moses and the Israelites sing after the Red Sea miracle, and highlights power, ability to defeat his enemies. Back to Yahweh, before any of this aspect of Israel's journey, he's actually part of another god, Canaanites. I believe maybe we'll find them, the Canaanites, gods. And he's a storm god. Hence, when this happened in the story, right, what happens? He creates a storm that supposedly splits the Red Sea that they could walk across, and then everybody's destroyed, and then they sing this song, "The Lord is a man of war." And you might say, what are you trying to present to us? Let's see if this goes anymore. The phrase describes God as a warrior, emphasizing his strength ability to fight for his people. The Lord is his name. I'm here to tell you, ever before even Israel, this is a weather storm God that actually settles in being a war God. That's what you've been worshiping. I'm going to start out and we're going to kick off real quick with some truth. This is what we've been presented to. That's why none of this war stops. We don't have any peace, frontal lobe, what I said. We have no unity. We have no peace. It's always a division. It's always this, right? So when you look down, I'll even go down a little farther. What do you see? The Lord is a man of war, right? So I wanted to establish this, but I wanted to establish this when you go back and look, you're going to find out Yahweh wasn't just popped out of nowhere and he was their guy. He was a storm god. They found it Sinai. And then, there's no fire. The bush doesn't consume because it lacks water. When you don't have the feminine and masculine impact, you're halving it. Remember the Gnosticism, which you learn Yahweh is, and we're going to correlate this together because it's obvious to me now. It's right in front of our eyes if we just be real and but many of us here that are established here, we've been kicking dogma through our experience to the curb. We see the dogma. We do. We see the dogma. On this page, let me see if I pop here, if it pops up there. Does it? No, it didn't. It stayed the same. Okay, it didn't. I thought maybe if I hit it here. So I guess I can't just go here and it pops up here. Okay, I'm just trying to look. Why not? It doesn't. And you know what? That's the same as this. So I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, so we're going to share again. Because it's not like the other one I had. I'm seeing is that you share and then you go there, right? So we're going to get into some of the stuff before. So before the emergence of Israel, Yahweh was likely understood as a storm god, a common motif in ancient Eastern religions, not just here. Remember, this war god that I'm establishing there's not one. I mean, Mars in some of the Western when you deal with the Roman Empire, you deal with the Greeks. You're seeing Mars. Mars is connected to war. It's called the war planet. That's why it's called Mars. You flip some of the letters around in Mars, you get arms. What is arms? Right? Personally, human in the pentagram, that would be. But notice this is hijacked into war too, because arms are also weapons of mass destruction, of murdering, destroying. So, right, the idea is supported by the depictions of Yahweh in early biblical texts where he's described as marching out from the desert with a heavenly host to do battle with his enemies by the association of Yahweh. The powerful natural phenomena like storms and thunder. He's a war god and storms. Scholars also suggest he may have been a warrior god, drawing parallels between Yahweh and the other war gods, which I just mentioned. So if we go back here, we see the ancient Near East the ancient Near East. Where was I at? Warrior pillar. Oh, the ancient Near East storm gods were often depicted as powerful figures who controlled weather, fertility, and sometimes war. The description of Yahweh in the book of Exodus, where he leads the Israelites through the Red Sea and appears as a pillar of cloud and fire, aligns with the concepts in warrior gods. So he's a storm god, warrior god. Some scholars argue Yahweh's depiction as a warrior god, right, is as a deity associated with warfare protection of Israel, supported by the title Lord of Hosts, which refers to Yahweh as the commander of the heavenly armies. It's speculated Yahweh may have originated as a minor Canaanite deity, potentially a local war or storm god, and was later adopted by and transformed by the Israelites. Theories supported the fact that Yahweh worship was not immediately monotheistic and the presence of other deities was there. So when you start looking at this, you start seeing that the reason I'm kind of lost here is I'm looking at this is I had some other things. I'm like, where are they at? I had some scriptures. Maybe I have to go back to the Samuel that would show you in the bottom every scripture. We'll get there when we get there. So I just started looking at this, the storm god to the warrior god, origins. So we see that. So he had origins, right? He had definitely, let me go out of here, he had origins. I'm going to go back into the screen share. So his origins were not starting with them. You've seen it was Canaanite, other religions. He was a storm god. He's just a desert blower, creating desert storms within the desert of that Middle Eastern or that area, the Mediterraneans, that area. He was worshipped as a war god, adopted to be the main god. He was a pantheon of gods. He wasn't a main god at all, nowhere at all. Just had his aspect, weather, fertility, and war. And then Israel transforms him. He didn't transform them. Hear what I'm saying. This is this is the Gnostic story of the Demiurge. You ain't the dealy-wop, buddy boy. In the story, right? He's considered ignorant, lacks wisdom, has no knowledge, has no wisdom, blind. So this God who's just a one-dimensional. And we have to understand these things with these gods. We've been given a version of monotheism. This isn't the world. Elohim. And I'm going to get into how Elohim in one area creates and then Yahweh does in that second area creates. Big difference. This goes with some other stuff. I will do this. It'll probably be my next video on Genesis 1 and 2. I've just been looking at this just heavily. I used to revelate in 1 and 2 and I go, this is different. And I was kind of on it back in the days, not fully on it, but I seen the difference between, I was like, something about Genesis 1 and then Genesis 2 is like two different separate. And I've known this for a while, like 20, 25 years, but this has been made very clear to me now. So you have this character that we call Yahweh. And I'm going to go back to where we were before. The one that I was looking for may not be there. No, this is it. I might have to put me to the tab. No, I can't put me on the tab. Put me the tab this way, up here. This is Samuel. So we heard they sang a song. So this is going to give you some closure of all these scriptures, the different Bibles, but let's start with the cross references on Deuteronomy. This is all the commands by Yahweh for them to do. But also, let me backtrack. Let me give you a little history that many of you will know, being Bible scholars that you are. So God shows up one day, right, and tells, is it Abraham? To kick rocks, leave your family, leave your family, he pretty much says. And I will lead you a man flowing for work. And I'm going to give you a nation of your own people. And it will, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to really bless you. Don't take any of your family. It means exclude your family. Exclude them, right? I'm just being honest. He said, exclude your family. Don't take any of them. Of course, Lot accompanies them in the story, but Lot's a mindset. I see in a metaphysical purpose that Lot is a mindset, but also Lot is you buy lots, you buy land. And remember in the story, Lot wasn't always, I used to look at Lot as being like the lower aspect of Abraham. First of all, a family member did go with him. Surprised he didn't kill Abraham. But anyways, notice these stories. And this is the different Bibles where you could read them. So the cross-reference. Remember that what the Amalekites did to you on your way from Egypt, how they met you on your journey when you were tired and weary, and they attacked all of your stragglers. They had no fear of God. And when the Lord your God gives you rest from the enemies around you in the land, he's giving you possession and inheritance. You are a blot out the memory of Amalek. This is very warlike. And let's go back to this New Testament, who they're saying this is the same one as this one when we go in the New Testament. Jesus says, turn that other cheek. He ain't riding Yahweh's train, let's be honest. And then now as I look at these scriptures and I see that he would always tell those religious aspects of them and tell them, you are of your father, the devil. What is he saying? Your father's not my father. That's your daddy. You're of the God of this world. Then later we hear the God of this world. Jesus said, I am not of this world. I'm in it, but not of it, right? Think, switch, revelate, putting it pieces together. He's really telling them, and we know who them are, the same as they who are traveling and being commanded to do these war-like acts, to follow and do this. But Jesus said, nah, I'm telling you to turn the other cheek. In fact, then he goes and says, hey, them that are judges, lawyers, tax collectors, religious bunch, he says Pharisees and Sadducees, the priesthood, are woe unto them. Otherwise, they ain't the ones. They're faking the funk. That's what he's saying. He goes, and the one that you say is your daddy ain't my daddy. This goes to what we've learned in Gnosticism with the demiurge in the canonized versions. But this is why. Look at this funk that he's dealing with. Remember the Amalekites, right? Exodus 17:14, the Lord said to Moses, write on this a scroll as a reminder to recite to Joshua, because I will utterly blot out the memory of the Amalekite under heaven. Moses built an altar and named it, Lord, it is my banner. Indeed, he said, hand has lifted up toward the throne of God and will war against Amalekite from generation to generation. Means I'm going to keep this war going because I'm a war guy. This is what I'm here. This is a foundation of this religion, calling it out. Facts are facts. No disclosure anymore. Everything's open for disclosure, as you see in this world. Happening now. So when I look at this cat, and we've already determined just by what I said previously, Jesus is saying, I ain't from this cat. This ain't my lineage. Right? Come on now. We ain't faking the funk here. We're bringing it the way it is. So he said he's going to keep it going from generation to generation. I'm not just going to deal with what these certain people may have did to us. And probably these people, when you start learning about what they were doing, going place to place, wasn't necessary. That's why a lot of people said, get off my land. We ain't playing this games with you. And that's something to get into later, what they were doing when they were going through these lands. Remember, this is a people back to Abraham and Lot that were told, I'm giving you a land flowing with milk and honey, and I'm going to take you there and you're going to get it. But through the taking there was going through and committing and going through war after war and going through all these places, all these people. And yes, they were held captive. This is where a lot of this comes from. A lot of this comes from these texts are Babylonian, and they just put themselves in, adding your names, your culture to a story that previously happened. Just like the Noah story is a Gilgamesh story, which was put out by mostly all other cultures with Gilgamesh way before the Noah story. And that's facts. So when you get information for a place that you were living, right, when you're under Babylon, and then you become part of the Babylon priesthood and you learn from the Babylon priesthood, but then you take it with you and then you commit it to yourself. I'm telling you facts right here that are definitely something you can look up or I can share later in another video, but I'm just kind of putting this here. So, but also I'm going to give you land flowing with milk and honey, but I'm a God, but the land isn't original. You have to take it for somebody it belongs to. That means it's thievery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not murder. And that's what you're saying not to do by the 10 commandments, but that's all you do. That's called hypocrisy from the highest level. And then you're around saying, I'm a jealous God, because you're so full of rage because you're a war guy that you're jealous, and that there's none beside you because you're so jealous. But when we really get real with these gods, Elohim doesn't mean one, the one it created in Genesis 1. Nowhere even close. It's one. It says, make them in our image. We'll get to that later. He was part of a pantheon of gods. But these folks, became his God, and they transformed him into the ultimate God when he was just a lower pantheon. He wasn't the ultimate in his pantheon. He was not the ultimate highest level God in the pantheon that he comes from. That's facts. Let's read Numbers. So and Lord will war with the Amalekites, Amaleks, from generation to generation. So in Numbers, then Balaam saw Amalek and lifted up an oracle, saying, Amalek was first among the nations, but the end is destruction. So it just continues. Now the city and everything it must be, in Joshua 6:17-21, devoted the Lord of destruction. For destruction must be devoted. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all those with her in her house will live, because she hid the spies she went. She kept them away from things devoted to destruction. So here we go with somebody who in your law is a prostitute, which means she's selling her body. I ain't tripping on it, but your law does. But now you'll get inconsistent when it's for war, to hide the spies. Spies are used for espionage. This stuff is happening now with the very same thing over there, if you know what I mean. It will set apart the camp of Israel for destruction, and bring upon it, for all silver and gold and articles of bronze and iron are holy to the Lord, must go into his treasury. Yeah, God needs money for the machine. When the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to possess, meaning steal, you drive out before your nations the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hevitites. I mean, we're going to go steal your land and we're going to whip your tails. And this wasn't just we're going to whip you and then we're going to let you live. And then, you're going to be under our thumb, but you're going to be still part of a culture and you can keep your seed going. He was commanding destruction, and we're going to see this, how gruesome. That's why he said, besides me, there's no other. I'm a jealous God. War being, jealousy, I'm the only one, when he came from a pantheon where he was not near the highest one. So these uplifted him to the high place where he could say, I'm the only one. I'm the one kicking it. I'm the master. I'm the control. Come on now. However, in the cities that your Lord God has given you as an inheritance, so the inheritance, besides getting into Canaan and get that land, which we call Israel now, which was stolen in antiquity, right? And in the past, in history, antiquity. God, why antiquity? Antiquity. That always is a tongue. Antiquity, in the past, right? History. A lot of times some stuff's written in history, but anyways, there are parts of this is true. And they cannot teach, because a lot of them are Sumerians and Babylonians, as that's who they are. They learn those two majors and learn from those priesthoods. Everything's a copy of it. Come on now. And also a copy of when you say you're Abraham and Sarah, but the original story is Brahman and Saraswati, you just hijack that and then made it yours. I just gave you truth. But if you're indoctrinated, boy, your eyes are watering. You just like Yahweh, you're pissed. But if you know, it's like, ooh, what are we dealing with here? That's what my point is. What is really going on? What's happening here? So the Lord your God commands, so that they cannot teach you all the detestable things they do to their gods, so cause you to sin against the Lord your God. And by giving anything else outside him praise, he's saying that you're sinning against him, because he's the only one. He's the jealous one. And this kills me when you're a jealous God, supposed to have all power, all knowledge, all knowing in that. And you got a jealousy problem, which is a deep-seated, dark problem of jealousy that many, if you were to do it, you're a low-down, dirty sinner. To me, this sounds like a teenager with no maturity. When you tell me you're jealous and I'm the only one, like a whining, sniveling brat. But really, it's the anger that carries over. Now he's saying, look what their gods. Remember, he said, I'm the only one. Besides me, there's no other. Besides me, there's no other. But he comes from a pantheon himself. So he's faking the funk. But it says they created this. He didn't What did he give them? He gave them what they wanted, a land he promised them by the sword. And who was his number one? Think about this. We've been told that Saul was the bad king and David was the good one. Saul spared and then was kicked out. It said the anointing had left him. And then it said David was a man after his own heart. What was David? David's a man of war. Tell me when I'm lying. That's in your Old Testament too. Unveiling that which has been veiled in your mind is what we're doing here today. Setting a tone of reality to observe and know that your truth and your connection is within, that you're connected to the real one. That light within you is the real. This ain't nothing but just the world. Because you have First Kings. Judges pressed the Canaanites. When Israel became stronger, they pressed the Canaanites and forced labor. So they forced them, but they never drove them out completely. So here they're forcing them to be slaves. And the prophet said to the king, is this what the Lord says? Because you have let slip from your hand the man I've devoted destruction, your life will be exchanged for his life, your people for the people. And I'm going to read a little bit more, but there's something I really want to read. And where is that? Is it Leviticus, Numbers? There's something I really want to read. Here we go. We're going to read Exodus. Thou shalt not bow thyself to them, nor serve them, for the Lord thy God am a jealous God. There he is. Remember in the Gnostic Gospels, this jealous God went up to the highest reigning God, and he said, this is the one that's sinning against the highest level, right? Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, meaning we're going to carry this from generation to generation through war, through the treatment by the sins of them who didn't follow this jealous God and didn't do his commands. And we're going to put it on third and fourth generations, meaning we're going to keep doing what we're doing, which we even can see over in that country over there now. And how this has been going on from generation to generation in that area of the world. Now, therefore, kill it. And then Numbers, fourth generation. Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones and kill every woman that had known man by living with him. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess a land nor fill the face of the world in cities. And unto Adam he said, because of the hastened hearken of thy wife. That's not what I wanted to see. Where was I at? And they face the killing of the children, because there's even one that talks about the killing of the babies too. Where is that at? Where's that at? I just want to read that real quick. I want it to sink in. The young bulls. So here's another thing that was done. Let me go back here. This is another thing I want to say. We're at the 38-minute mark that I didn't pull out here. Let me stop sharing. I'm going to share one more, and we'll call that. That should be good. I will share one more to read, but in a second. So you're over here going and conquering to get to a place, Canaan, Canaanites, Phoenician land. You're not the originals from that land. Sound familiar? Let's just be honest. I'm not saying here. It's multiple places everywhere when we go back into the church from 4th century on. Their antics, which I'm deep diving into them and learning more about some stuff that's came up through and history about them, specific stuff. Yeah. Knowing your enemies is a good thing because that's how it's looked at through them. Almost the guards, to be honest. Every time, and this wasn't mentioned, and I was going to touch on this with scriptures, that they would have these battles, they would serve, then they would make an altar and create offering unto the Lord. You read this over and over and over in the Old Testament, you Bible scholars and those who've been in this, right? I'm here to tell you that sacrifice was all the bloodshed because this is a war God. This is connected to all the blood sacrificing that we will get into that I'm seeing, that it's not just them, it's before them. It's other places, Mesoamerica, how blood Moloch is nothing new. There's something about the sacrifice of blood connected to these folks, not just these, but other, even before them, they're just actually really Johnny-come-latelys, and a lot of it's written in from other real events, and then you place yourself in the story when the story wasn't built on you. Yeah, I said it. Facts. Calling out that which isn't. Uncensoring the censored. West Coast Uncensored. Powerful. I will share one more screen, but what I wanted to say was, when we look at even a language that is a combination of Phoenician Canaanite called Hebrew, it's not original language, it's not an original land, it belonged to somebody else, and the language is foundation of a combination of Canaanite and Phoenician, hooked on phonics. Is your language from them? Meaning it's not original either. So this God is not original, because you don't give them a land originally, and you're supposed to be the one, and their language don't even add up. Now, do you see why 1948 happened? Put the pieces together. Then tell you, oh, they're the, and then the religious are like, oh, they're the chosen ones, but they don't accept Jesus, and all that indoctrination, flub-a-bub, because that's what it is. It's indoctrination. I'm going to share one more screen with you to tie this in. But what I was saying was, before this, I want to connect what I was getting to. Made an offering to the Lord with shedding of blood, bullocks, goats, and the slaughter of women, children, and them you slaughtered for generation. You said you're going to keep it going generation to the third and fourth, meaning you're going to keep doing your blood rituals. Yeah, I'm tying that into it too. The sacrifice unto this war god was the blood shed in war. That's why it's done. Then we already know what's gone on in the wood. This stuff's coming out. The sacrificing, especially with children. Yeah. Let's share the next screen. This will be the last share. I didn't know I'd go this long, but then kind of thought I might. So you can see I said, is Yahweh the demiurge? In some Gnostic systems, Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, is identified with the demiurge, the creator of the material war. The demiurge is often portrayed as being flawed, ignorant, or even malevolent. In contrast to the higher supreme God, Gnostic view suggests that demiurge created the world as a kind of prison or mistake, and the humans can be saved through the knowledge of the gnosis of the higher, truer God. Cosmic Gnosticism, we know what that is. The demiurge is often identified with Yahweh of the Old Testament, the war god. And this is what variations of the demiurge, gnosis and salvation. We won't really go into that. I'm going to stop the share here. Right, stop the share here and go back here. We're going to wind this down. We're coming on 45 minutes. My videos have got longer, and I used to try to keep them around 20, but this stuff, we're getting deep. My point was showing you that everything about what the Gnostics said and what we see, and then now we're learning history, because everything is in full disclosure. The funk can't be faked by the knowers. Can't be. Can't funk the funk's not. It can't be faked. When you got real gnosis, you see. You can't fake the funk. You may fake for an hour, but we'll discern it. And this is even being discerned. It was a war god. And if you don't know, it's out everywhere now. People are talking about this in the community. Many people have known this in the community, but the war god. The war god. Yeah. It's the war god. And it was used through war to transfer, to take a land that wasn't theirs from the beginning, and their language. And this is what struck me for a long time, is their language is not original. So if the original God don't have original people, but saying they are, but and then you go and look and deep dive on Yahweh himself. He's a storm, desert, war god who was part of the pantheon of gods, the same pantheon, and he was not the top of that pantheon at all. Not close. He was a specific thing. Storms and war. We're here to break it. We need to break the things and just be real. This isn't easy to take, especially if somebody's leaving it, but somebody who has left it, and if you're open and you're new here, if you're somebody coming in here and you're religious, you want to get lost. Your comments will be gone. I'm not going to play with it. We're not here to play. I'm not going to play games with them. Knowers who want to know this new, welcome with love, but here to play games because you don't want to come out of your indoctrination and it's against your beliefs and you want to rut and route, get lost, because you are. you're still holding on to that, just this isn't the place for it, because it's not going to be a debate center. I don't want no debates. This ain't about debates. You can't debate gnosis with a gnosis. Come on. That's like somebody that's in depth indoctrinated with somebody who's revelating like a mad dog for 30 years. Come on, stop. And that's my warning to them who hear this, that want to come in and do this. But to you who want to learn, let's grow together. Let's be real. This is real stuff. And I'm really evaluating some of the history I see with Rome, because there's a lot of stuff coming out when you really look into it, and some of the stuff that's even happened in past that was brought up that was just shoveled under. I mean, priests and people involved in the Vatican, ex-people, have said stories that will make you cringe, that's been held up, but it's available to know. And I may share some of that with you, because I do know some of it and do know it, part of it, which I'm not surprised, because I already knew that place was that place. But anyways, without further ado, I will call this Yahweh a war god, demiurge, something like that. It will be in that frame. I'll name this. But you guys have a great day.